Peace, peace, peace. Hold on, I'm over here making sure that my timer is on. How's everybody doing? Let me put up this ad real quick. This is politics as usual. Old York Gritty. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget to check out the book, Street Skelzy, Knock 'em Out the Box. Also, some junky apparel, right? So we in the building today. Oh, I should have changed all of this. I didn't even change my title. Forgive me. Let me go over here. My fault. Let me edit this. Right, hold on. Do a little copy paste. Headlines. Alright, let's say, okay. Who are the, paste this in there, Druze. Alright, let's put, no, we just put that there like that. We'll get into it later. Alright, so hold on, wait, matter of fact, let me make this bigger. Alright, let me, go to my headlines. Let me enlarge this. Alright, forgive me here real quick for a second before we get into this. Alright, so who are the Druze? Right? In this, we will be getting into Freemasonry once again. We will be revealing, the Eastern Stars, Moorish Science Temple, and a lot of these organizations, whether they acknowledge it or not, there's a controller behind this. And this is the reason why I'm doing this is, right, because, let me lean back here, when you see a lot of turmoil, right, and you do history into the unraveling of control of a society, you will see these people in the mix of things. Right, we say Freemasons. I gave you, a lot of breakdown on what's coming, through the Scottish Rite and all of these things. So we will be always referring back to things, but right now we will be getting into the Druze. Right, and all of this coincides. There's never nothing that's, in West Bubblefuck or something like that. All right. So let's slide over here. As you can see, I got my showrunner and all of that, right here. I had it before, but I never initiated it. So I took the time, yesterday and, brought it up here. So this will be on this screen, and then I have my ads, for the other. I should put the book up there as well when I have the Street Skelzy part, but whatever. All right. As you can see, hit the like, the subscribe, and the notification bell. All right. I be forgetting to say all of that stuff, so I just, put it over here. That way we could just mosey on in. Right now, as you know, I went to Wikipedia and I just, brought this into my word, right? So I didn't want you to think that I'm, infojacking, when claiming it as my own. No, what I'm doing is showing you what's already there, but what you might not be aware of. All right. So right here, you can see, right, let me move to the side here. All right. You can see the star, right? That star is going to play a major part. right? See the flag, right? And this is the Druze star. Let's see right here so I could tell you, right? Druze star and flag, right? So we got a total population worldwide, right, of between 800,000 and 2 million. Now, if you look into Freemasons, it'll tell you it's like 8 million worldwide. So pay attention to that. All right. Founder, Hamza Abin Ali Abin Ahmed. Right. Region with significant population. Syria, Lebanon, Israel, pay attention to that. Venezuela, pay attention to that. America, definitely pay attention to this. Canada, Jordan, Australia, Germany. Pay attention to this, right? Religion, Judaism, scriptures, right? Episcopal of wisdom, languages. Right, so we got Arabic, native, Hebrew as a second language in Israel, Spanish in Venezuela and Colombia, English in the United States, Canada, and Australia. Right, so I'm gonna let the voice do the talking, and y'all could just listen to it. Right, okay. Let's get into this. And I extended my show time from every 20 minutes of break to an hour, so that way we can, go through it. I already got the ads and all of that here, so it ain't no real reason to, keep, breaking like that. All right.
Druze/Arabic, Darzi or Durzi, plural Duras, are members of an Arabic-speaking esoteric, ethno-religious group originating in Western Asia, who adhere to a faith that originally developed out of Ismaili Islam, although most Druze do not identify as Muslims.
Right. Now, we do know, you hear like the 5% and all of them, they'll tell you, Muslim or, even Nation of Islam and all of them, that the black man is God, so they don't heed to, Islam in that fashion. That's why when you seen Malcolm X, Malika Hard, right, when before he passed away, he converted to Al-Islam, right? Ishmael Islam, so this right here is showing you the organizations that have come under this, but not really claiming that, but they'll come under that banner.
They practice Druzism, an Abrahamic, monotheistic, syncretic, and ethnic religion based on the teachings of Hamza ibn Ali ibn Ahmad and ancient Greek philosophers like Plato, Aristotle.
Right. Now, they base their teachings off of, I read his name before, right? And ancient Greek philosophers. Now, as you see, hold on. Right, as you can see, I bolded, these Greek philosophers, Plato and Aristotle. Matter of fact, I didn't think I bolded them, so make this bold. All right, so because we will be getting into these main two philosophers as well as others, but these two in particular. Wait, hold on.
Foundational and central text of the Pythagoras and Zeno of Citium. Adherents of the Druze religion are called the people of monotheism, Almuane. The Epistles of Wisdom is the foundational and central text of the Druze faith. The Druze faith incorporates elements of Ismailism, 33, Christianity, Gnosticism, Neoplatonism, Zoroastrianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Pythagoreanism, and other philosophies and beliefs, creating a distinct and secretive theology based on an esoteric interpretation of Scripture, which emphasizes...
Hold on, right? A distinct and secretive theology, right? Want to make sure, hold on, let me bring this down, right? Secretive, right?
Based on an esoteric interpretation of Scripture, which emphasizes the role of the mind and truthfulness. Druze believe in theophany and reincarnation. Druze believe that at the end of the cycle of rebirth, which is achieved through successive reincarnations, the soul is united with the cosmic mind, Al-Aql Kulli. 132. Druze believe there were 7 prophets at different periods in history: Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, and Muhammad ibn Ismail ad-Darazi. Druze tradition also honors and reveres Salman the Persian, Al-Qaid, who identify as Elijah, reborn as John the Baptist, and Saint George, 48, Job.
Right now, hold on. As you know, right, I went into Job. I explained the science of it, right? So just so you know that these things, anything that I've brought up, coincide with each other. It's not just, hold on a minute here. All right. Oh, this is one of the books I've written while I was incarcerated. I'm actually in the middle of transcribing another one of my books, so I should be hopefully done with it by the ending of this year, hopefully. All right, hold on a minute here. You can see I got a lot of different books here. All right, I'm only doing that because I don't want to keep having to, raise and lower the microphone. All right, so let's go.
Luke the Evangelist and others as mentors and prophets. They also have a special affinity with Shuaib, who they believe is the same person as Jethro. Even though the faith originally developed out of Ismailism, Druze do not identify as Muslims.
Druze do not identify as Muslims.
Druze do not identify as Muslims. Muslims. The Druze faith is one of the major religious groups in the Levant, with between 800,000
We'll get into the Levant.
adherents. They are found primarily in Lebanon, Syria, and Israel, with small communities in Jordan. They make up 5.5% of the population of Lebanon, 3% of Syria, and 1.6% of Israel. The oldest and most densely populated Druze communities exist in Mount Lebanon and in the south of Syria around Jabal al-Druze, literally the mountain of the Druze.
Right now, Jabal, we see in the Bible, right? And when we go into the Duncan rituals, right, we will see Jabal. You'll see the 2 pillars when you look at the Freemasonic, overall, symbols. We will see, Jabal and Jabal as, these 2 pillars, right?
The Druze community played a critically important role in shaping the history of the Levant, where it continues to play a significant political role. As a religious minority in every country in which they are found, they have frequently experienced persecution by different Muslim regimes, including contemporary Islamic extremism.
All right, so in that, we're going to go down. Now, this is, the content. This is how you know that I just, brought it. I just wanted y'all to see it. So, we got early history, closing in faith, these things. These are the different sections that we will be covering. Maybe not all of it at this point. I'm just pulling out. I want to give you enough of it to where it's not me leading you. You know how I feel about hypnotism and mesmerism. You know what I say about suggestion, right? So I don't want to, be one of those people that lead you in a direction. So I'd rather give you in its totality. Also let you know this is not me making this stuff. So I don't hold no control over it. All right, so let's go.
Contents.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let me.
1. Etymology.
Hold on.
2. Location.
No, hold on, ma'am. Hold
3.
on now.
History.
Didn't I just say hold on?
3.1. Early history.
All right, hold on a minute here. All right, we're going down to etymology, all right? So this is, all of the different stuff you'll see there. So we're not going to go into all of that. We're going to let it just go from here.
The name Druze is derived from the name of Muhammad bin Ismail Nashtakan ad-Daratsi, from Persian Dartsi, seamster, who was an early preacher. Although the Druze consider ad-Daratsi a heretic, the name has been used to identify them, possibly by their historical opponents as a way to attach their community with ad-Daratsi's poor reputation. Before becoming public, the movement was secretive and held closed meetings in what was known as sessions of wisdom.
All right. So once again, before coming public, the movement was secretive, held closed meetings, right? And held closed meetings, See that right there, right? All right. Then we can also bold that up for you. See right there. Before becoming public, the movement was secretive and held closed meetings. All right. See right there. Closed meetings. All right.
Before becoming public, the movement was secretive and held closed meetings. Meetings in what was known as sessions of wisdom. During this stage, a dispute occurred between ad-Daratsi and Hamza bin Ali, mainly concerning ad-Daratsi's gulu, exaggeration, which refers to the belief that God was incarnated in human beings, to ad-Daratsi naming himself the sword of the faith, which...
All right, now... should have did this. As you can see, I did a lot of highlighting of certain things, but I don't know. I didn't because I knew I was gonna get back to this, so I wanted to but when you look at the Freemasonic symbol, you will see the sword over the head, right? All right.
The sword of the faith. Faith, which led Hamza to write an epistle refuting the need for the sword to spread the faith, and several epistles refuting the beliefs of the Gulat. In 1016, ad-Daratsi and his followers openly proclaimed their beliefs and called people to join them, causing riots in Cairo against the Unitarian movement, including Hamza bin Ali and his followers.
So, this is what I'm saying. They'll first set up themselves in secret. You'll see all of these movements come. And once these movements, they're not just in, the black community, they're in the white community. So when you see, the white guy who shot up the 4th of July Day parade and that stuff, and when you read articles, hold on, let me see if I can, there's one, right, hold on, all right, boom, boom. Let me come here real quick, because I'm just going through Highland Park rally to help toddler after his parents were killed, right? And they give them $2 million. Highland Park mass shooting suspect dude make first court appearance. Well, on one of these, right, father of Highland Park shooting suspect liked tweets supporting Second Amendment days after Uvalde, massacre. That was when they shot up the school, right? Murphy, climate activist, largest. I'm looking, because I just went through this earlier, so they probably switched up a lot of the articles that was here. Highland Park shooting kicked out a synagogue during Passover, right? All right, I want y'all to see that. Reports, right? Let's see, I'm just going through this again, just so you can see that these things coincide. It's not white supremacist march in Boston prompt calls for action from black leaders. So do not think that the woke community is one-sided. It's all of these groups being given information, but this information is the cause, the collapse of a nation, right? So don't think that this is a one-sided, because I talk to black people, they act like, oh, they woke, and don't realize that they just being used, right? They're being used just like everybody else. The one thing about the devil is he'll give you his old lies, revealing them as truths, while giving you new lies to take you away from the old one, right? So, let's go. This, Mantov mirror in the car with the girls. All right, okay. So let's go back here. All right.
This led to the suspension of the movement for 1 year and the expulsion of Ad-Daratzi and his supporters. Although the Druze religious books described Ad-Daratzi as the insolent one and as the calf who is narrow-minded and hasty, the name Druze is still used for identification and for historical reasons. In 1018, Ad-Daratzi was assassinated for his teachings. Some sources claim that he was executed by Al-Hakim by Amar Allah. Some authorities see in the name Druze a descriptive epithet derived from Arabic Darisa, she who studies.
Right now, right, I want to give you this understanding, because when we cover Islam, right, because this is all dealing with the Islam factor of it, right, and so when we cover this right here will explain why, because Islam came out of, the Babylonian era, meaning that once that system collapsed, these new systems were born: Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, right? So to understanding, ISIS and the logic of, Ishtar and these people, where the female always had a duality, meaning one side of this loving, but the other side of war and always causing conflict, right? So we will be getting into this as well.
Some authorities see in the name Druze a descriptive epithet, derived from Arabic derisa, she who studies. Others have speculated that the word comes from the Persian word darazzo, bliss, or from Sheikh Hassan ad-Darazzi, who was one of the early converts to the faith. In the early stages of the movement, the word Druze is rarely mentioned by historians, and in Druze religious texts only the word Muwain, Unitarian, appears. The only early Arab historian who mentions the Druze is the 11th century Christian scholar Yahya of Antioch, who clearly refers to the heretical group created by ad-Darazzi, rather than the followers of Hamza ibn Ali. As for Western sources, Benjamin of Tudela, the Jewish traveler who passed through Lebanon in or around 1165, was one of the first European writers to refer to the Druze by name. The word Dogsian, Druzes, occurs in an early Hebrew edition of his travels, but it is clear that this is a scribal error. Be that as it may, he described the Druze as mountain dwellers, monotheists, who believe in soul eternity and reincarnation. He also stated that they loved the Jews. Location. The number of Druze people worldwide is between 800,000 and 1 million, with the vast majority residing in the Levant. Druze people reside primarily in Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and Jordan.
We will be getting into the Levant, meaning just its region, right, of where they dominate. So when we talk about the wedge, right, and we acknowledge the Jews, JEW, right, we need to acknowledge the Druze, right, because as you see, they live side by side with them.
The Institute of Druze Studies estimates that in 1998 40 to 50% of Druze live in Syria, 30 to 40% in Lebanon, 6 to 7% in Israel, and 1 to 2% in Jordan. About 2% of the Druze population are also scattered within other countries in the Middle East, and according to the Institute of Druze Studies, there were approximately 20,000 Druzes in the United States in 1998. According to scholar Colbert C. Held of University of Nebraska, Lincoln, the number of Druze people worldwide is around 1 million, with about 45% to 50% live in Syria, 35% to 40% live in Lebanon, and less than 10% live in Israel, with recently there has been a growing Druze diaspora. Large communities of Druze also live outside the Middle East, in Australia, Canada, Europe, Latin America, mainly Venezuela, Colombia and Brazil, dubious, discuss, the United States, and West Africa.
So, just, let me take this out of here. Cut you. Alright. Hold on a minute here. Right? So I want you to pay attention to where they are set up. Right? The Middle East, sure. Australia, Canada, Europe. Now, remember when we had the pandemic and we see these are the places where, you was having a lot of resistance. Mainly Venezuela, Colombia, Brazil, the United States, and West Africa.
They are Arabs who speak the Arabic language and follow a social pattern very similar to those of the other peoples of the Levant, Eastern Mediterranean. In 2021, the largest Druze communities outside the Middle East are in Venezuela, 60,000, and in the United States, 50,000. According to Los Angeles Times in 2017, there are about 30,000 in the United States, with the largest concentration in Southern California.
Now, we've seen, the gang activity, right? We've seen the destruction that caused, right? Southern California. And we also see, what happened is California is like the first places in America to basically collapse, right? In the United States, if we see California, you see they got so much, fame and all of that, that their property value skyrocketed to most of the people, well, not most, but I'm exaggerating there, but you see that there's basically the homeless population is like its own community, a state in itself. Like it could fill a whole city by itself or county by itself, right?
History. Early history. The Druze faith began as an Ismaili movement that was opposed to certain religious and philosophical ideologies that were present during that epoch. The Divine Call or Unitarian Call is the Druze period of time that was opened at sunset on Thursday, May 30th, 1017 by Adarazzi and closed in 1043 by Al-Muqtana Bahaddin, henceforth prohibiting anyone else from converting to the Druze faith.
So then, remember I explained to you that we're going to get into Aristotle and Plato. So I want you to pay attention to, certain things. We also remember, the divine call, Unitarian called, is the Druze period of time that was open at sunset on Thursday, right? Because keep in mind Thursday, right? All right. Because when we do the Freemasons again, you're going to see that day come up, right? And close, meaning henceforth prohibiting anyone else to converting to the Druze faith. Now pay attention, because you could remember most of the people are not members of, so you can be, say, Nation of Islam or any of them. You were only a subject of that. You are not a part of the controllers. You are the followers, those under the spell, is what I'm pointing out. So a lot of times people think because they might be in an organization, but those organization heads are the ones who are the true Masons, or should we say, and even those people are just pawns themselves. They're just a bigger piece. The bishop, let's say they're the bishops on the chessboard, right?
The faith was preached by Hamza ibn Ali ibn Ahmad, an Ismaili mystic and scholar from Zozan, Khorasan, in the Samanid Empire. He came to Fatimid Egypt in 1014 or 1016 and assembled a group of scholars and leaders from across the world to establish the Unitarian movement. The order's meetings.
Right now, if you notice, it said I highlighted, I bolded it. I should have highlighted it for you. It says assembled a group of scholars and leaders from across the world to establish the Unitarian movement. And the order's meetings were held at Raydan Mosque near the Al-Hakim Mosque. So it was set up to combat them.
The order's meetings were held in the Raydan Mosque near the Al-Hakim Mosque. 6th Fatimid Caliph, Al-Hakim Bayamar Allah. In 1017, Hamza officially revealed the Druze faith and began to preach the Unitarian doctrine.
See? Now, in 1017, right? I already bolded it, so let me just add some color to it. Right? Hazma officially revealed the Druze faith. So before then, they was working in secret, right? And preached and began to preach the Unitarian doctrine. So even here in America, right, they do one thing. They introduce, especially through the criminal element and these type of things. That's why I use, these organizations that went in and supposedly civilize the savage, right?
Remove ye the causes of fear and estrangement from yourselves. Do away with the corruption of delusion and conformity. Be ye certain that the Prince of believers hath given unto you free will, and hath spared you the trouble of disguising and concealing your true beliefs, so that when ye work ye may keep your deeds pure for God. He hath done thus, so that when you relinquish your previous beliefs and doctrines ye shall not indeed lean on such causes of impediments and pretensions. By conveying to you the reality of his intention, the Prince of believers hath spared you any excuse for doing so. He hath urged you to declare your belief openly. Ye are now safe from any hand which may bring harm unto you. Ye now may find rest in his assurance ye shall not be wronged. Let those who are present convey this message unto the absent, so that it may be known by both the distinguished and the common people. It shall thus become a rule to mankind, and divine wisdom shall prevail for all the days to come. Al-Hakim became a central figure in the Druze faith, even though his own religious position was disputed among scholars. John Esposito states that Al-Hakim believed that he was not only the divinely appointed religio-political leader, but also the cosmic intellect linking God with creation, while others, like Nissim Dana and Mordecai Nissen, state that he is perceived as the manifestation and the reincarnation of God, or presumably the image of God. Little information is...
Right. So now, when we look, like I said, you look into Nation of Islam and 5%ers and these groups, you will see, oh, I'm God. I used to, I was never a member of the 5%, nor was I ever associated with, Nation of Islam and its people, but I affiliated myself with them because they're everywhere. So within that, I took on the title, I'm God, this, that, and the third, even though I was fully aware that the word God really came from, Gilgamesh. So when you say God in the reference, like the Jews and all of that in their Bible, the Old Testament through Job, which is the oldest book, came out of the epic of Gilgamesh, right? So just so you can have an understanding of that, right? So yes, even myself, I can say that I use that title, right? And not that it's anything wrong. I don't believe in it being blasphemous or anything. It's just for a full understanding of this movement and how it attaches itself to the people, right?
Known about the early life of al-Darazi. According to most sources, he was born in Bokhara. He is believed to have been of Persian origins, and his title al-Darazi is Persian in origin, meaning the tailor. He arrived in Cairo in 1015 or 1017, after which he joined the newly emerged Druze movement. Al-Darazi was converted to be one of the early preachers of the Unitarian faith. At that time, the movement enlisted a large number of adherents. However, he was later considered a renegade and is usually described by the Druze as following the traits of Satan, in particular, arrogance.
So this is what I mean, like to label yourself God, is considered arrogant, right? Due to the fact that, not because of in the sky, but to be that ruler, that type of person is an arrogant move. That's an arrogant statement, right? So, because now that you make everybody God in our community, right, no one can tell anybody anything. You come out with stuff like, what's the brother Tupac? Only God can judge me. Right? So then you cannot be scolded, or reprimanded or checked in any way, because now you're putting it that you are not in that position or on that level. And that becomes a sense of arrogance.
This view is based on the observation that as the number of his followers grew, he became obsessed with his leadership and gave himself the title the Sword of the Faith. In the Epistles of Wisdom, Hamza ibn Ali ibn Ahmad warns al-Darazi, saying, "Faith does not need a sword to aid it." However, al-Darazi ignored Hamza's warnings and continued to challenge the Imam.
All right. So, as you see, I highlighted that for you. As the number of his followers grew, he became obsessed with his leadership and gave himself the title, the Sword of the Faith. Right? And he was told, faith does not need a sword to aid it. Right? But when you see, that's why you hear people, oh yeah, if you reveal the secrets of Freemasonry, you can get killed. I was never involved with none of that. I was never in none of those groups. So me revealing, sure, I could still get bumped off. Who cares? But to be righteous in my task is what this is about. Right? So as we go into this, we will be revealing the Eastern Stars, the Moorish Science Temple, and all of that. So pay attention to everything that I'm pointing out. Some of this will be highlighted when we go into the Eastern Stars, which is very short because everything is offered through this.
This attitude led to disputes
Matter of
between
fact, hold on.
al-Darazi and Hamza ibn Ali, who disliked his behavior. Al-Darazi argued that he should be the leader of the Dawah rather than Hamza ibn Ali, and gave himself the title Lord of the Guides because Caliph al-Hakim referred to Hamza as Guide of the Consented.
All right, so hold on a minute. I'm gonna, just so we can, stay on point. Eastern Stars. Right. Meeting days. All right. Let's see here. This page is a guide. Both please calendars or the calendar events. Let's see if this is the one I'm looking for. All right. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Where we at here? Page generals, events. Where may let's see here. I'm wondering. I'm just hoping this is the one. Not. I'll go back. All right, hold on. Yeah, pass. This is not what I seen. I was hoping, given pandemic, no the trust. Oh, see, here we go. As you see, it lands on what day? Thursday, right? So then you have this, but hold on. All right. It was just that one that, as you can see, you know, how that was the first one at the beginning of the calendar that you will see. And as you see, you know, Thursday, this ain't the one that I was looking for, because usually it tells you these are certain calendars, but general grand chapter. All right, hold on a minute here. Welcome official, boom, boom, fertility, all of this right here. Pay attention to these titles right here. We will be getting into it. I'm sorry, I really, like I said, I have it planned for another time to bring this part in. So I'll just keep going and bring it in so you can see it. I hate being, you know, all over the place. All right.
By 1018, Alderazzi had gathered around him partisans, Derizites, who believed that universal reason became incarnated in Adam at the beginning of the world, was then passed from him to the prophets, then into Ali and hence into his descendants, the Fatimid caliphs. Alderazzi wrote a book laying out this doctrine. He read from his book in the principal mosque in Cairo, which caused riots and protests against his claims, and many of his followers were killed. Hamza ibn Ali refuted his ideology, calling him the Insolent One and Satan. The controversy created by Alderazzi led Caliph al-Hakim to suspend the Druze Doa in 1082. In an attempt to gain the support of al-Hakim, Alderazzi started preaching that al-Hakim and his ancestors were the incarnation of God. It is believed that Alderazzi allowed wine, forbidden marriages, and taught metempsychosis, although it is argued that his actions might have been exaggerated by contemporary and...
Right. So when you go into, you know, the mosque, you know, they got the bars and all of that, you know, stuff in there. So when they say he allowed wine and forbidden marriages, right, this is what I'm using that there, right? So already, you know, metaphysics. Right?
Although it is argued that his actions might have been exaggerated by contemporary and later historians and polemicists. An inherently modest man, al-Hakim did not believe that he was God, and felt Alderazzi was trying to depict himself as a new prophet. Al-Hakim preferred Hamza ibn Ali ibn Ahmad over him, and Alderazzi was executed in 1018, leaving Hamza the sole leader of the new faith. The call was suspended briefly.
As you'll see with a lot of these organizations, Freemasonic organizations, especially within the black community, whether it be, you know, from Noble Drew Ali to, you know, Morris Science, to coming out with the Nation of Islam, to coming out with 5% Nation. Do the research on the founders of those people, and you will see. I'm going to bring it up, but I'm just saying until we get there, do your own research.
May 19th, 1018 and May 9th, 1019 during the apostasy of Alderazzi, and again between 1021 and 1026 during a period of persecution by Ali Zahir for those who had sworn the oath to accept the call. Citation needed. Persecution started 40 days after the disappearance into occultation of al-Hakim, who was thought to have been converting people to the Unitarian faith for over 20 years prior. Al-Hakim convinced some heretical followers such as Alderazzi of his soteriological divinity and officially declared the divine call after issuing a decree promoting religious freedom. The call summoned people to a true Unitarian belief that removed all attributes, wise, just, outside, inside, etc., from God. It promoted absolute monotheism and the concepts of supporting your fellow man, true speech, and pursuit of oneness with God. These concepts superseded all ritual, law and dogma and requirements for pilgrimage, fasting, holy days, prayer, charity, devotion, creed and particular worship of any prophet or person was downplayed. Sharia was opposed and Druze traditions started during the call continue today, such as meeting for reading, prayer and social gathering on a Thursday instead of a Friday at Kalwats instead of...
Wait, right here. Thursday, right, instead of Friday. Alright.
Thursday instead of a Friday at Kalwats instead of mosques. Such gatherings and traditions were not compulsory, and people were encouraged to pursue a state of compliance with the real law of nature governing the universe.
Think about what is being said here.
Epistles of Wisdom called it a spiritual doctrine without any ritualistic imposition. The time of the call was seen as a revolution of truth, with missionaries preaching its message all around the Middle East. These messengers were sent out with the Druze epistles and took written vows from believers, whose souls are thought to still exist in the Druze of today. The souls of those who took the vows during the call are believed to be continuously reincarnating in successive generations of Druze until the return of Al-Hakim to proclaim a second divine call and establish a golden age of justice and peace for all.
Now remember, like I said, I want you to pay attention to, of justice and peace, right? Not just the all part, but just understand these titles, right? Because when we get into even down to the gangs, we were going to see all of this play a major part. So I'm giving you this first. So then when we go into, the secret societies and all of that, you will see this group as, the founder through what is being promoted. And then you will understand how they're using all of these different organizations to cause the conflict within the people, because they all have, quote unquote, a piece of truth. But this truth is only to cause confusion amongst the people.
In 1043, Al-Muqtana Bahadin declared that the sect would no longer accept new pledges, and since that time proselytism has been prohibited, awaiting Al-Hakim's return at the Last Judgment to usher in a new golden age.
So then all of the people who are being indoctrinated into this, they are not really in it. Matter of fact, I should have changed the title on my header, going through YouTube and all that, because it might be coming up as something else.
Some Druze and non-Druze scholars like Sami Swade and Sami Makarim state that this confusion is due to confusion about the role of the early preacher Al-Darazzi, whose teachings the Druze rejected as heretical. These sources assert that Al-Hakim rejected Al-Darazzi's claims of divinity and ordered the elimination of his movement, while supporting that of Hamza ibn Ali. Al-Hakim disappeared one night while out on his evening ride, presumably assassinated, perhaps at the behest of his formidable elder sister Sid al-Mulk.
All right, we're going to go into her. Understand, because this is going to play a large part in understanding of, the Eastern Stars and how they use this system to cause confusion throughout our people.
The Druze believe he went into occultation with Hamza ibn Ali and 3 other prominent preachers, leaving the care of the Unitarian missionary movement to a new leader, Al-Muqtana Bahadin. Closing of the Faith, edit. Al-Hakim was replaced by his underage son, Al-Zahir. The Unitarian Druze movement, which existed in the Fatimid Caliphate, acknowledged Al-Zahir as the caliph, but followed Hamza as its imam. 60. The young caliph's regent, Sid al-Mulk, ordered the army to destroy the movement in 1021. At the same time, Baha al-Din was assigned the leadership of the Unitarians by Hamza. For the next 7 years, the Druze faced extreme persecution by the new caliph, al-Zahir, who wanted to eradicate the faith. This was the result of a power struggle inside of the Fatimid Empire in which the Druze were viewed with suspicion because of their refusal to recognize the new caliph as their imam. Many spies, mainly the followers of al-Darazi, joined the Unitarian movement in order to infiltrate the Druze community. The spies set about agitating trouble and soiling the reputation of the Druze. This resulted in friction with the new caliph, who clashed militarily with the Druze community. The clashes ranged from Antioch to Alexandria, where tens of thousands of Druze were slaughtered by the Fatimid army, this mass persecution known by the Druze as the period of the Mina. The largest massacre was at Antioch, where 5,000 prominent Druze were killed, followed by that of Aleppo. As a result, the faith went underground in hope of survival, as those captured were either forced to renounce their faith or be killed. Druze survivors were found principally in southern Lebanon and Syria. In 1038, 2 years after the death of al-Zahir, the Druze movement was able to resume because the new leadership that replaced him had friendly political ties with at least one prominent Druze leader.
Hey, what? The movement was able to resume because new leadership that placed him in friendly political ties. Understand that. Right? Understand that, yes, they'll be underground. Then you'll see them going into these political situations, right? And then we'll see it's all public, all government. I mean, presidents, they tell you was a part of, Freemasonry, the Druze, or whatever you want to label them. But their system is what we are seeing on how they gain their membership by being secretive and gaining these people. And so when it's time for the takeover, all of their puzzle pieces are in the right place.
In 1043, Baha al-Din declared that the sect would no longer accept new adherents, and since that time, proselytism has been prohibited. Wadi al-Taim was one of the two most important centers of Druze missionary activity in the 11th century, and was the first area where the Druze appeared in the historical record under the name Druze. It is generally considered the birthplace of the Druze faith. During the Crusades, it was during the period of Crusader rule in Levant, 1099 to 1291, that the Druze first emerged into the full light of history in the Garb region of the Chuf Mountains. As powerful warriors serving the Muslim rulers of Damascus against the Crusades, the Druze were given the task of keeping watch over the Crusaders in the seaport of Beirut, with the aim of preventing them from making any encroachments inland. Subsequently, the Druze chiefs of the Garb placed their considerable military experience at the disposal of the Mamluk rulers of Egypt, 1250 to 1516, first to assist them in putting an end to what remained of Crusader rule in coastal Levant, and
pay attention to Egypt.
Later to help them safeguard the Lebanese coast against Crusader retaliation by sea. In the early period of the Crusader era, the Druze feudal power was in the hands of two families, the Tannics and the Arslans.
So, remember when I kept saying, they'll have these two sides in order to keep a conflict going. Even when you see mesmerism and hypnotism and how you've seen one came in to basically, give credit in ways in order to discredit while making them, meaning that, say somebody is saying something, right? You're giving them a sense of credit while destroying them altogether. That way you hold the dominant fact. I'm looking at the time over here because we got under a minute before we take this first break, right? So I'm not even gonna go any further, but I'm gonna just say in that is how we understand the moving of people, to have a conflict while giving credit, so that way when you make the transformation, people are still familiar with it. It's not totally odd. So if you got Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and now you bringing in spirituality, which was the mystery inside the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Let's keep going. Break time is coming now. All right. Okay, we back at it. I don't know why I didn't, start the timer on its own. Alright, so I gotta start it this way. Alright, okay. Nonetheless, is what it is. Alright, I'm gonna figure that out later on today. Alright, so we're back at it, people. Right? In this, we have been covering the Druze history. Now, in that history, it shows that it's secretive. It'll come out in the public, while knowing that once the people find out who they are, in their tactics, they usually go after them, right? And so once they do, they go back underground. Since they deal with this knowledge and understanding, they go to those and of a certain level of intelligence, and they begin the recruiting process once again. Right? So we're going to slide back over here. Right? And now let's get back into this.
From their fortresses in the Garb area, now an Aili district of southern Mount Lebanon Governorate, the Tannics led their incursions into the Phoenician coast and finally succeeded in holding Beirut and the Marine Plain against the Franks. Because of their fierce battles with the Crusaders, the Druze earned the respect of the Sunni Muslim caliphs and thus gained important political powers. After the middle of the 12th century, the Mon family superseded the Tannics in Druze leadership. The origin of the family goes back to a Prince Mon, who made his appearance in the Lebanon in the days of the Abbasid Caliph al-Mustarshid, 1118-35 CE. The Mayans chose for their abode the Chuf district in southwestern Lebanon, southern Mount Lebanon Governorate, overlooking the maritime plain between Beirut and Sidon, and made their headquarters in Bakelin, which is still a leading Druze village. They were invested with feudal authority by Sultan Nur ad-Din and furnished respectable contingents to the Muslim ranks in their struggle against the Crusaders.
Me, as you see, I don't want you to just think that it's not red. As you can see, it's already highlighted. So me, with inside there, like I said, I want you to get the full information instead of me just chopping up and giving you my narrative. I'm giving you a complete narrative, not just from me. I took out, the little numbers inside there, but you can easily go into Wikipedia like I did, and read all of these sections and articles outside of this that made this article up. I would advise you to do that as well. Don't take nothing off of face value. Do, diligent, searching, researching, right, to find out not only about them, but then you can discover things that might have been missed by even me or somebody else, right?
Ibn Taymiyyah believed that Druze have a high level of infidelity, besides being apostates. Thus, they are not trustworthy and should not be forgiven. He teaches also that Muslims cannot accept Druze penitents nor keep them alive, and Druze property should be confiscated and their women enslaved.
Right now, as we said with the Eastern Stars, or what we said with Ishtar and Isis about having this duality, we will be getting into, the roles that the women have played in this. To understand that these are just the Greeks. Understand that these people are set up to find every aspect of something that's set up and already have a system in place to take them down, to keep the wheel rolling. These are a group of deceptive people.
Having cleared the Holy Land of the Franks, the Mamluk sultans of Egypt turned their attention to the schismatic Muslims of Syria. In 1305, after the issuing of a fatwa by the scholar Ibn Taymiyyah calling for jihad against all non-Sunni Muslims like the Druze, Alawites, Ismaili, and 12 Shia Muslims, al-Malik al-Nasir, inflicted a disastrous defeat on the Druze at Pt.1 and forced outward compliance on their part to Orthodox Sunni Islam. Later, under the Ottoman, they were severely attacked at Safar in the 1585 Ottoman expedition, after the Ottomans claimed that they assaulted their caravans near Tripoli. As a result of the Ottoman experience with the rebellious Druze, the word Druze in Turkish came, and continues, to mean someone who is the ultimate thug. One influential is
said, what now? Right? Let's go back here, right?
As a result of the Ottoman experience with the rebellious Druze, the word Druze in Turkish came, and continues, to mean someone who is the ultimate thug.
Right? Druze, or Jersey, right? In Turkish came and continues to mean someone who is the ultimate thug.
One influential Islamic sage of that time labeled them as infidels and argued that, even though they might behave like Muslims on the outside, this is no more than a pretense.
So when we listen to, like I told you, you listen to even Wu-Tang and Ghostface said, the God left a message on the dresser, the lessons on the dresser. But then when you listen to their rhymes and you listen to what they are talking thuggery, they're talking, crime. So the initiates of the Druze come in this fashion, picking out people like myself. Like I said, I knew a lot of dudes, been all up and down the East Coast, been on the West Coast, due to having a certain understanding, being a certain characteristic of a person that I am. People would assume that I promote these things, but not knowing that anything I was doing was on a moral ground. So I wasn't out there, robbing old ladies and, beating people over the head. I told you I didn't even stand on blocks due to the fact that I didn't want somebody walking by and feeling uncomfortable. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't participate in criminal activity, right? It's just that it wasn't for the same purpose. I wasn't white worshiping and idolizing, name brand clothes and those type of things. Not to say that I've never purchased those things, but it just wasn't for those reasons that I was out there, or those wasn't the reason at all. Most of the time, it was, as a way to still engage and get a message out there, even though most people, they didn't care. That's how you see the gangs, Chicago, LA, like I explained to you. And we will see how all of these and all of those people are actually pawns, because remember, you can't be a member. Right? The doors is closed. So these are just the pawns of that. Right? And we're going to get into the, those who work by the brute force or those who work by intelligence when we look at the order of Eastern stars and those type of things.
He also declared that confiscation of Druze property and even the death sentence would conform to the laws of Islam. Consequently, the 16th and 17th centuries were to witness a succession of armed Druze rebellions against the Ottomans, countered by repeated Ottoman punitive expeditions against the Chuf, in which the Druze population of the area was severely depleted and many villages destroyed. These military measures, severe as they were, did not succeed in reducing the local Druze to the required degree of subordination. This led the Ottoman government to agree to an arrangement whereby the different Nahais districts of the Chuf would be granted an iltizam, fiscal concession, to one of the region's emirs, or leading chiefs, leaving the maintenance of law and order and a collection of its taxes in the area in the hands of the appointed emir. This arrangement was to provide the cornerstone for the privileged status, which ultimately came to be enjoyed by the whole of Mount Lebanon, Druze and Christian areas alike. Mon dynasty. Main article, Mon family. With the advent of the Ottoman Turks and the conquest of Syria by Sultan Selim I in 1516, the Mayans were acknowledged by the new rulers as the feudal lords of southern Lebanon. Druze villages spread and prospered in that region, which under Mon leadership so flourished that it acquired the generic term of Jabal Beit Mon, the mountain home of the Mon, or Jabal al-Druze. The latter title has since been usurped by the Horan region, which since the middle of the 19th century has proven a haven of refuge to Druze emigrants from Lebanon and has become the headquarters of Druze power. Under Fakhr-al-Din II, the Druze dominion increased until it included Lebanon, Phoenicia, and almost all Syria, extending from the edge of the Antioch Plain in the north to Safed in the south, with a part of the Syrian desert dominated by Fakhr-al-Din's castle at Tadmur, Palmyra, the ancient capital of Zenobia. The ruins of this castle still stand on a steep hill overlooking the town. Fakhr-al-Din became too strong for his Turkish sovereign in Constantinople. He went so far in 1608 as to sign a commercial treaty with Duke Ferdinand I of Tuscany, containing secret military clauses.
Again, right, we see right here, right, continuing secret military clauses, right?
The Sultan then sent a force against him, and he was compelled to flee the land and seek refuge in the courts of Tuscany and Naples in 1613 and 1615, respectively. In 1618, political changes in the Ottoman Sultanate had resulted in the removal of many enemies of Fakhr-al-Din from power, signaling the prince's triumphant return to Lebanon soon afterwards. Through a clever policy of bribery and warfare, he extended his domains to cover all of modern Lebanon, some of Syria and northern Galilee.
Right. Through clever policies of bribery and warfare. Right? Right, and so remember their lands, Lebanon, Syria, and northern Galilee. Right?
In 1632, Hukuk Ahmed Pasha was named Lord of Damascus. Hukuk Ahmed Pasha was a rival of Fakhr-al-Din and a friend of the Sultan Murad IV, who ordered the Pasha and the Sultanate's navy to attack Lebanon and depose Fakhr-al-Din. This time the prince decided to remain in Lebanon and resist the offensive, but the death of his son Ali in Wadi al-Tain was the beginning of his defeat. He later took refuge in Jezines Grotto, closely followed by Kuyuk Ahmed Pasha, who eventually caught up with him and his family. Fakhr-al-Din was captured, taken to Istanbul, and imprisoned with two of his sons in the infamous Yedi-Kul prison. The Sultan had Fakhr-al-Din and his sons killed on April 13, 1635 in Istanbul, bringing an end to an era in the history of Lebanon, which would not regain its current boundaries until it was proclaimed a mandate state and republic in 1920. One version recounts that the younger son was spared, raised in the harem, and went on to become Ottoman ambassador to India. Fakhr-al-Din II was the first ruler in modern Lebanon to open the doors of his country to foreign Western influences. Under his auspices, the French established a Khan hostel in Sidon, the Florentines a consulate, and Christian missionaries were admitted into the country. Beirut and Sidon, which Fakhr-al-Din II beautified, still bear traces of his benign rule. See the new biography of this prince, based on original sources, by T.J. Gorton, Renaissance Emir, a Druze warlord at the court of the Medici, London, Quartet Books, 2013, for an updated view of his life. Fakhr-ad-Din II was succeeded in 1635 by his nephew Mullah Ma'an, who ruled through his death in 1658. Fakhr-ad-Din's only surviving son, Hussein, lived the rest of his life as a court official in Constantinople. Emir Mullam exercised iltizam taxation rights in the Shaf, Garb, Jid, Matn, and Khizrwan districts of Lebanon. Mullam's forces battled and defeated those of Mustafa Pasha, Beylerbey of Damascus, in 1642, but he is reported by historians to have been otherwise loyal to Ottoman rule. Following Mullam's death, his sons Ahmad and Korkmaz entered into a power struggle with other Ottoman-backed Druze leaders. In 1660, the Ottoman Empire moved to reorganize the region, placing the Sanjaks, districts of Sidon, Beirut, and Safed in a newly formed province of Sidon, a move seen by local Druze as an attempt to assert control. Contemporary historian Istefan el-Dawahi reports that Korkmaz was killed in act of treachery by the Beylerbey of Damascus in 1662. Ahmad, however, emerged victorious in the power struggle among the Druze in 1667, but the Mans lost control of Safed and retreated to controlling the iltizam of the Shuf Mountains and Khizrwan. Ahmad continued as local ruler through his death from natural causes, without heir, in 1697. During the Ottoman Habsburg War, 1683 to 1699, Ahmad Ma'an collaborated in a rebellion against the Ottomans, which extended beyond his death. Iltizam rights in Shuf and Khizrwan passed to the rising Shihab family through female line inheritance. Shihab dynasty.
Right? So, during the Ottoman Habsburg War, right, Ahmad Ma'an, collaborated with a rebellion against the Ottomans which extended beyond his death. Right? Rights of Sharif and passed to the rising Shihab family through female line inheritance. So when you hear a lot of these wokes, especially the Moors, if you go on Clubhouse, this is what they'll promote. Oh yeah, originally the bloodline came through the woman. So they're giving you this history based on this time frame, not necessarily its reality. Right? Okay. And we will be covering that.
Shihab dynasty. Main article, Shihab family. Druze woman wearing a tantour during the 1870s in Chuf, Ottoman Lebanon. As early as the days of Saladin, and while the Mayans were still in complete control over southern Lebanon, the Shihab tribe, originally Hijaz Arabs, but later settled in Iran, advanced from Iran in 1172, and settled in Wadi al-Taim at the foot of Mount Hermon. They soon made an alliance with the Mayans and were acknowledged as the Druze chiefs in Wadi al-Taim. At the end of the 17th century, 1697, the Shi'ab succeeded the Mayans in the feudal leadership of Druze southern Lebanon. Although they reportedly professed Sunni Islam, they showed sympathy with Druzism, the religion of the majority of their subjects. The Shihab leadership continued until the middle of the 19th century and culminated in the illustrious governorship of Emir Bashir Shihab II, 1788 to 1840, who, after Fakhr al-Din, was the most powerful feudal lord Lebanon produced. Though governor of the Druze mountain, Bashir was a crypto-Christian, and it was he whose aid Napoleon solicited in 1799 during his campaign against Syria. Having consolidated his conquests in Syria, 1831 to 1838, Ibrahim Pasha, son of the Viceroy of Egypt, Muhammad Ali Pasha, made the fatal mistake of trying to disarm the Christians and Druze of the Lebanon and to draft the latter into his army. This was contrary to the principles of the life of independence which these mountaineers had always lived, and resulted in a general uprising against Egyptian rule. The Druze of Wadi al-Taim and Iran, under the leadership of Shibli al-Aryan, distinguished themselves in their stubborn resistance at their inaccessible headquarters, al-Lajah, lying southeast of Damascus. Kassites and the Yemenites. Main article, Battle of Ain Dara. Meeting of Druze and Ottoman leaders in Damascus about the control of Jebel Druze. The conquest of Syria by the Muslim Arabs in the middle of the 7th century introduced into the land two political factions later called the Kassites and the Yemenites. The Kassite party represented the Bedouin Arabs who were regarded as inferior by the Yemenites, who were earlier and more cultured immigrants into Syria from southern Arabia.
Now, again, we will see two groups set up in order to cause the conflict. So when you see blue and red Democrats, Republicans, Bloods, Crips, Folk Nation, People Nation, this system was set up under these same guidelines.
Druze and Christians grouped in political, rather than religious, parties. The party lines in Lebanon obliterated ethnic and religious lines, and the people grouped themselves into one or the other of these two parties regardless of their religious affiliations.
So, pay attention to that, right? So it goes Druze and Christians.
Druze and Christians grouped in political, rather than religious.
Right, grouped in what? Political, right? Rather than religious, right? Rather than religious parties.
Druze and Christians grouped in political, rather than religious, parties. The party lines in Lebanon obliterated ethnic and religious lines, and the people grouped themselves into one or the other of these two parties regardless of their religious affiliations.
Pay attention.
Sanguinary feuds between these two factions depleted, in course of time, the manhood of the Lebanon and ended in the decisive Battle of Ain Dara in 1711, which resulted in the utter defeat of the Yemenite party. Many Yemenite Druze thereupon migrated to the Hauran region, laying the foundation of Druze power there. Civil conflict of 1860. Main article, 1860, Civil conflict in Mount Lebanon and Damascus. The relationship between the Druze and Christians has been characterized by harmony and coexistence, with amicable relations between the two groups prevailing throughout history, with the exception of some periods, including 1860, civil conflict in Mount Lebanon and Damascus. In 1840, social disturbance started between Druze and their Christian Maronite neighbors, who had previously been on friendly terms.
Now pay attention that now you see the attack on Christianity, right? So we went into King James, right? And we understand that you had basically 110 years of warring between the Protestants, the Catholics, and the Puritans, right? And so in 1860, we're here, America, certain things are set up. That's the reason why I'm always saying pay attention to the dates, because as we go, these dates will coincide and, with dates that we had already mentioned as well, right?
This culminated in the Civil War of 1860. After the Shahab dynasty converted to Christianity, the Druze community and feudal leaders came under attack from the regime with the collaboration of the Maronite Catholic Church, and the Druze lost most of their political and feudal powers. Also, the Druze formed an alliance with Britain and allowed Protestant missionaries to enter Mount Lebanon, creating tension between them and the Catholic Maronites.
Right. So, I just told you, remember, there's always been the war, the Protestants, the Catholics, the Puritans. Right? Understand this and understand how these systems is used by these quote unquote smart, enlightened, whatever titles you want to use for these people to put things in place to remove one system and set up another, because they've been there from its foundings, right? And cut this, right? Okay.
The Maronite-Druze conflict in 1840–60 was an outgrowth of the Maronite independence movement, directed against the Druze, Druze feudalism, and the Ottoman Turks. The Civil War was not therefore a religious war, except in Damascus, where it spread and where the vastly non-Druze population was anti-Christian. The movement culminated with the 1859–60 massacre and defeat of the Maronites by the Druze. The Civil War of 1860 cost the Maronites some 10,000 lives in Damascus, Zal, Deir al-Qamar, Hasbaya, and other towns of Lebanon. The European powers then determined to intervene and authorized the landing in Beirut of a body of French troops under General Beaufort de Hautpal, whose inscription can still be seen on the historic rock at the mouth of Nahr al-Kalb. French intervention on behalf of the Maronites did not help the Maronite national movement, since France was restricted in 1860 by the British government, which did not want the Ottoman Empire dismembered. But European intervention pressured the Turks to treat the Maronites more justly. Following the recommendations of the powers, the Ottoman Porte granted Lebanon local autonomy, guaranteed by the powers, under a Maronite governor. This autonomy was maintained until World War I.
So, right, as you see, once again, we have these organizations, and oddly, right, whenever they go through their conflicts, these carry out to the masses. Not Damascus, but the masses, right? So understand that as we go on, right, that these groups or group of people, right, will be side by side. They do not hold the same understanding as religious people. So whether it be the Jews, whether it be the Muslims, whether it be the Christians, none of them this has to do with a certain quote unquote intellectuals with this information, and this is what you see become the takedown. So be careful to overlook the culprit.
Rebellion in Horan. Main article, Horan Druze Rebellion. The Horan Rebellion was a violent Druze uprising against Ottoman authority in the Syrian province, which erupted in May 1909. The rebellion was led by Alatrash family, originated in local disputes and Druze unwillingness to pay taxes and conscript into the Ottoman army. The rebellion ended in brutal suppression of the Druze by General Sami Pasha al-Faruqi, significant depopulation of the Horan region and execution of the Druze leaders in 1910. In the outcome of the revolt, 2,000 Druze were killed, a similar number wounded, and hundreds of Druze fighters imprisoned. Al-Faruqi also disarmed the population, extracted significant taxes, and launched a census of the region. Modern history. In Lebanon, Syria, Israel, and Jordan, the Druzites have official recognition as a separate religious community with its own religious court system. Druzites are known for their loyalty to the countries they reside in, though they have a strong community feeling, in which they identify themselves as related even across borders of countries.
Right? So, it goes right here. The Druze have officially recognition as a separate religious community. That's why you could see them setting up the temples, the Muslim temple, not the Muslim, but the Freemasonic temples, right? Communities, Jewites are known for their loyalty to the countries they reside in, though they have a strong community feeling in which they identify themselves as related even across borders of countries. Right? Understand that. I should have highlighted this. Alright, bold Jew, let's turn you back to the red. Alright, so all of this that I'm highlighting is gonna play a part. So after we go through this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to these highlighted sections and I'm gonna do whole, shows showing you the similarities. I'm gonna also go through the Duncan rituals with you. After all, I think I'm gonna do 2 more series and then I'm gonna get into the Duncan rituals, because what I want to make sure is that this part of the information comes out. Like I said, the hypnotism, the mesmerism, all of these factors, I want you to have them in order for you to understand those books, right? And these writings and stuff we're gonna go through, the master's carpet, these are all books, right? So not to say, I don't want you to think that anything that I'm presenting is strictly Wikipedia, because it is not. What I'm doing is finding the simplest way and encyclopedias are a gathering of information and putting them into one place. So it's easier to go through the encyclopedia and then go to the outside sources of all of them to show you their validity, right? I don't want you to think that it stands on one. As you can see, most of this stuff I've read, I've done other research. So for me, it's presenting this so that way when we go to the outside sources, you will see them in many different areas and not just like these Nubian Egyptologists and all of that, where it's just in this one place. It has no outward connection to anything. It's just them bringing something up. That's not what I'm doing. I'm giving you outside sources. All of these underlying words you click on and you open a whole different, so you be here reading forever and they don't necessarily be connected to the story. That's the reason why it's good to have an encyclopedia, because it's like a dictionary. You see a word, or you have a thesaurus where you could take a word and you can see its multi connections of words, but you can also read those words and see how, yes, they might be associated, but they don't hold the same meanings in all contexts. So that's how, I'm showing you this right here. All right.
Although most Druze no longer consider themselves Muslim, Al-Azhar of Egypt recognized them in 1959 as one of the Islamic sects in the Al-Azhar Shia fatwa due to political reasons, as Gamal Abdel Nasser saw it as a tool to spread his appeal and influence across the entire Arab world.
So, although the Druze no longer consider themselves Muslims, right, of Egypt recognized them in the 1959 as one of the Islamic sects, right? Okay, let me bold you out here. Right, Islamic sects, right? Due to what? Political reasons, right? Saw it as a tool to spread his appeal. But the key, I'll just use a tool. Alright? Okay. Despite their practice of bending, wait, hold on, let's just read it. Right.
Despite their practice of blending with dominant groups to avoid persecution, and because the Druze religion does not endorse separatist sentiments, but urges blending with the communities they reside in, the Druze have had a history of resistance to occupying powers, and they have at times enjoyed more freedom than most other groups living in the Levant.
So, alright. Highlight you. Alright. Okay.
Despite their practice of blending with dominant groups to avoid persecution and
right? Their practice of blending with dominant groups. So once you have, this is the Freemasons, once you have an organization, they will come in. Sometimes they'll set it up. Other times it'll be there. But like I said, most of the time they have a foot in the door. So their job is to go in and blend with the people. So that way, they always have a say, right? Despite their practice of blending in with dominant groups to avoid persecution. Because if you knew these people, you would off with their head. So what they do is they intertwine within other groups. So that way it's hard for you to get to them. But urges blending with the communities they reside in, where it goes, and because the Druze religion does not endorse separatist sentiments, so they do not promote within theirs where the dominant, because they can manipulate through the smallest numbers, but urge blending in with communities they reside in. The Druze have had a history of resistance to occupying powers, and they have at times enjoyed more freedom than most of other groups living in the Levant. We're going to get into the Levant, all right? And we got Syria, all right? In Syria, most Druites live in Jebel al-Druze, a rugged and mountainous region in the southwest of the country, which is more than 90% Druze inhabited, right? Some 120 villages are exclusively so. Other notable communities live in the Hiram Mountains, right? Pay attention to that, right? Remember Hiram, right? The Damascus suburb of Jaramana, and on the southeast slopes of Mount Hermon, right? A large Syrian Druze community historically lived in the Golan Heights, but following war with Israel in 1967 and 1973, many of the Druze fled to other parts of Syria. Most of these who remain live in a handful of villages in the disputed zone, while others, well, only a few in the narrow remnant of, whatever. Well, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna let her read it. That is still under effective Syrian control, right? But just so you know, I don't utilize this. I just actually found it, so I don't be using. I'm a reader, right?
In Syria, most Druzites live in the Jebel al-Druze, a rugged and mountainous region in the southwest of the country, which is more than 90% Druze inhabited. Some 120 villages are exclusively so. Other notable communities live in the Hiram Mountains, the Damascus suburb of Jaramana, and on the southeast slopes of Mount Hermon. A large Syrian Druze community historically lived in the Golan Heights, but following wars with Israel in 1967 and 1973, many of these Druze fled to other parts of Syria. Most of those who remained live in a handful of villages in the disputed zone, while only a few live in the narrow remnant of Quneitra Governorate that is still under effective Syrian control. Druze celebrating their independence in 1925. The Druze always played a far more important role in Syrian politics than its comparatively small population would suggest. With a community of little more than 100,000 in 1949, or roughly 3% of the Syrian population, the Druze of Syria's southwestern mountains constituted a potent force in Syrian politics and played a leading role in the nationalist struggle against the French. Under the military leadership of Sultan Pasha al-Atrash, the Druze provided much of the military force behind the Syrian Revolution of 1925–27. In 1945, Emir Hassan al-Atrash, the paramount political leader of the Jebel al-Druze, led the Druze military units in a successful revolt against the French, making the Jebel al-Druze the first and only region in Syria to liberate itself from French rule without British assistance. At independence, the Druze, made confident by their successes, expected that Damascus would reward them for their many sacrifices on the battlefield. They demanded to keep their autonomous administration and many political privileges accorded them by the French and sought generous economic assistance from the newly independent government. Druze leaders meeting in Jebel al-Druze, Syria, 1926.
All right. Let me see if I can enlarge this for you. All right. So as you see right here, hold on. All right. See the Druze. Don't go, oh, they black because the the poor coloring of those days, So just understand these are the Druze in their meeting with Syria, right?
When a local paper in 1945 reported that President Shukri al-Quwatli, 1943-49, had called the Druze a dangerous minority, Sultan Pasha al-Atrash flew into a rage and demanded a public retraction.
All right. Just like how you're here with the Jews, right? Right? When a local paper, right, in 1965 reported that President, got his name, had called the Druze a dangerous minority. Sultan Pusha, right, flew into a rage and demanded a public retraction.
If it were not forthcoming, he announced, the Druze would indeed become dangerous, and a force of 4,000 Druze warriors would occupy the city of Damascus. Quwatli could not dismiss Sultan Pasha's threat. The military balance of power in Syria was tilted in favor of the Druze, at least until the military build-up during the 1948 war in Palestine. One advisor to the Syrian Defense Department warned in 1946 that the Syrian army was useless, and that the Druze could take Damascus and capture the present leaders in a breeze. During the 4 years of Adib Shishakli's rule in Syria, December 1949 to February 1954, on August 25, 1952, Adib al-Shishakli created the Arab Liberation Movement, ALM, a progressive party with pan-Arabist and socialist views. The Druze community was subjected to a heavy attack by the Syrian government. Shishakli believed that among his many opponents in Syria, the Druze were the most potentially dangerous, and he was determined to crush them. He frequently proclaimed, "My enemies are like a serpent. The head is the Jebel al-Druze, the stomach Homs, and the tail Aleppo. If I crush the head, the serpent will die." Shishakli dispatched 10,000 regular troops to occupy the Jebel al-Druze.
All right, now I'm gonna take some time, to highlight some of this. All right, sorry, I didn't, I was actually rushing to get this out because I was debating on what my next show was gonna be on. Like I said, I got a whole bunch of stuff in a whole bunch of different directions, so I could be here for years and years with information. That's why I try to give it as much as possible, right? We don't, like, it's 14 minutes left, so from this point I'm gonna just be doing some highlighting, and we'll be ending this show to get ready. We're going to continue. You can see this is, I don't know if you can't see on the side, we're only halfway through this information, right? Dismiss Sultan's threats. The military balance of power in Syria was tilted in favor of the Druze, at least until the military buildup during the 1948 war in Palestine. One advisor of the Syrian Defense Department warned in 1946 that the Syrian army was useless, right? And that the Druze could take Damascus, right, and capture the president leaders in a breeze, right? Okay, during the 4 years of Adib's, right, rule in Syria, December, right, boom, boom, created an Arab liberation movement. Pardon me. My phone is ringing. It was ringing, so I'd be forgetting to put it on mute. Paying that the Druze community was subject to heavy attacks in Syrian government, right? Believed that among his many opponents in Syria, the Druze were the most potentially dangerous, and right, and he determined to crush them. He frequently proclaimed, right, my enemies are like a serpent, and the head is, right, Jabal al-Druze, right, the stomach, arms, and the tail, people, right? If I crush the head, the serpent will die, right? Meaning that, yeah, they take these groups, right? These other groups, they infiltrate them and they use them along with their small numbers. That's why I say, yeah, you can be in a Freemasonic group, but that does not mean you understand what you are in. You're just a part of it. Right, dispatched 10,000 regular troops to occupy Jabal al-Druze. Several towns were bombarded with heavy weapons, killing scores of civilians and destroying many houses. According to the Druze account, encouraged neighboring tribes to plunder the defenseless population and allowed his own troops to run amok. Also launched a brutal campaign to defame the Druze for their religion and politics. Right? So I don't want you to think that I'm a part of this group. I don't know them. I'm just telling you through my history, this is what I've come across. He accused the entire community of treason. Right? At times claiming they are in employ of the British and Hashemites, wouldn't doubt it, and others that they were fighting for Israel, right, against the Arabs. Right? He even produced a cache of Israeli weapons allegedly discovered in Jabal. Even more painful for the Druze community was his publication of falsified Druze religious texts. The false testimonial ascribed the leader Druze Shiach designated to stir up secretism hatred. The propaganda also broadcasted in the Arab world, mainly Egypt, right? Was assassinated in Brazil in 2017 and 1964 by Druze seeking revenge, right, for the bombardment. Remember, they are in Brazil, right? So pay attention to who these people are. We will be continuing from here when we come back. All right? Till next time, y'all be good, peace, resistance, and all that good stuff. All right?